modern narrative of success is mostly built on individual merit, hard work, innate talent, and relentless grit. We are taught that the self made person is the ultimate hero in the human story. However, both historical research and philosophical inquiry suggest a more humbling reality. While our choices matter, the trajectory of our lives and the fate of the entire civilization is dictated by a silent architect, which is geographical luck. The most profound defense of this theory comes from Jared Diamond's research in guns, germs, and steel. Diamond argues that the dominance of Eurasian civilizations wasn't due to intellectual superiority, but rather a geographic head start. Eurasia benefits from an east-west axis, meaning the continent is wide across similar latitudes. This allowed crops and domesticated animals to spread easily across thousands of miles of identical climate. In contrast, the Americas and Africa are oriented north-south. A seed that thrives in a temperate northern climate will die when carried into the tropical center. Despite this strong evidence, humans still struggle from a cognitive bias known as the fundamental attribution error. We have a deep-seated tendency to attribute our own success to our character, hard work, or talent, while ignoring the situational advantages that make that work possible. When we look at a wealthy, stable nation, we assume that its citizens are very hardworking and disciplined. We rarely account for the luck of sitting on a deep water pot, fertile silt, or a temperate climate that doesn't need half the year's energy just to survive the cold. This bias creates a barrier to empathy. When we ignore geographical luck, we begin to view poverty, lack of development, or lack of success as a moral or intellectual failure rather than a structural one. We forget that a meritocracy cannot exist if the starting lines are placed 1,000 miles apart by the sheer lottery of birth. And in philosophy, this reality forces us to confront our sense of justice. John Rawls proposed a thought experiment called the vial of ignorance. John argued that if we were to design a fair society from a position where we didn't know where or to whom we would be born, we would naturally design a world of radical cooperation. If you didn't know whether you'd be born in a landlocked, resource-poor region or a coastal metropolis, you would want a global system that ensures a baseline of dignity regardless of geography. For the individual, acknowledging geographical luck is an exercise in profound humility. It does not erase our hard work, but it contextualizes it. It reminds us that our grit was allowed to flourish because we were born in an environment that provided the nutrients. So the question is, does geography really play a role in how far we go in life? The evidence says yes, and I can attest to that. And I can attest to that. And I can attest to that. A child in Africa can be talented, hardworking, gifted, but due to the environment he or she was born into, the chances of that child succeeding compared to a child born and raised in the Western world is very, very low. The child born in an environment where everything is structured and provided, the chances of becoming successful are much higher compared to a child who is born in an environment with little or no opportunities. This, sadly, is the reality of life. Another example, what use is hard work or talent when a child is born in a place of war? What use is talent or hard work? Situations like this make me realize how lucky one can be by simply being born in a different environment. So basically, it is the invisible hand that provides raw materials for our ambitions. And by recognizing this, we move away from a world of judgment to a world of perspective. When we realize our privilege, it is then easier to show compassion and empathy. We realize that the lack of success from someone from a different part of the world isn't a lack of potential. Sometimes it is based on individual mindset. That could be true. Two truths can exist, but mostly the geographical aspect plays a greater role. I'm not trying to advocate for laziness or simply folding one's arm and relying on the government, institutions, the world to do something for you. Sometimes we have to put in the work, no matter our circumstances in life.